Fuck the candles from both ends.
All right. Welcome in, all 30 of you now. I just want to point that out that we did get a new follower, so thank you. You know, they say to celebrate your new followers, so we appreciate it. And it means a lot to us that you're staying with the episodes and listening. Today, you know, on this episode, we're going to talk about some of the, hard-hitting topics that we have are, why don't people have kids anymore? And maybe things that go along with that, and then maybe the true cost of chronic illnesses, and what that meant to us, and what that means in life, personally, and maybe what we've seen, and then the opportunity costs associated with that. So I want to maybe start us off here with some of the why maybe a person in my situation might not want to have kids to start. And I think a lot of that has to do with finance. And obviously that's not saying anything out of school, right? Like that's the major number one probably problem that people have, why they don't have kids. But I think, the cost of daycare is a huge thing. Our boy JD Vance said, just have, Mima, Papa, or Doodah fucking look after your kids. And mine are all dead. So I don't have that option. And my parents are still working, believe it or not. So can't do that either. So unfortunately, it leaves a lot of people with, you have to pay for daycare. And daycare, I was talking to my old coworker who I used to work with, and she said that she pays somewhere between $400 to $500 a week per kid. And she has 2 kids in daycare, and they have to sign a contract before the year starts or whatever for daycare. And they so even if they have the days off, the sick kid, if they have a sick kid, the kid still has to stay at home, but they still have to pay the daycare fee. And it's written in the contract that it's, can be trimmed down or something like that. But I mean, right there is a huge allocation of money right there. And so that scares me going into it. And for the people that are in similar situations where they don't have, grandparents or parents that can look after kids, once you have them. And then I always wonder too, and I know maybe you guys can add on to this, but like, where does that money go? Why does it cost so much money? I get they're looking after your kids, and there's that kind of like almost insurance aspect to it. Like, hey, I'm paying you this much money. Please take care of my kid. Please, teach them something too while they're here. It's not necessarily your responsibility to be a teacher. You're really just there to look after them, make sure they don't have shit in their diaper for the whole day, right? So just look after them. But why does it cost so much? Like, why does it need to cost this much? So I just kind of wanted to get your initial thoughts on that from you two, and maybe what you've seen with siblings, or anything else that you guys have in your life.
Because it can cost that much.
The market will bear it. Well, that's okay. So that is kind of probably part of it. And I understand that's probably very expensive in terms of attracting labor. And it's probably expensive in terms of, you got to think, if you're taking care of like an infant, a lot of these things, there's probably risk involved. And I know there's like insurance costs associated with it. If someone's running it out of their house. Growing up, I had a friend whose mom ran a daycare out of her house. And so every time I went over there was a gazillion freaking kids like running around, whatever. But, and yeah, like I get it. She had to feed them and make sure they didn't shit their pants, and make sure the ones that did shit their pants got new pants, I assume, in some form or fashion, didn't just sit in shitty pants. But yeah, it's what's wild to me though. And this is just going off what I hear. Cause, for full clarity, as an aside, I was very inspired many years ago when I saw a Porsche sports car driving down the road, and the license plate said no kids. And I think that immediately convinced me that I do not want fucking kids, because I could buy a sports car instead. I don't own a sports car, but maybe I will still someday. I'm still holding on to hope. So I'm not a kids person. So this is all just kind of like what I've seen and heard, right? But I mean, like, some examples of the cost of it is, so I actually have a buddy who called me yesterday. I don't know if he'll ever hear this or not, but he called me yesterday and said that his wife is pregnant. They're a few months along and all that stuff. So they are now going through this journey of looking for childcare just right now, right? So they're probably looking for an infant, which again probably costs way more than putting your 2 or 3 year old in a daycare or something like that. And he was saying like the more expensive places he looked at was over $400 a week for 1 week. And I think the cheaper one that he ended up being able to afford and went for was, still just over 300 a week. I have a bandmate with 3 kids, and he's talked repeatedly. I forget what the number he said was. But he said that he spent like tens of thousands of dollars on daycare between the 3 kids. I can't remember. It's like between the 15 to like $25,000 range for a year of daycare for his 3 kids.
Yeah.
So that's terrifying. I have another buddy whose wife is pregnant. He hasn't really talked about childcare a whole bunch yet with me, but I'm assuming he's having a hell of a time finding that. So yeah, and the thing that sucks is like I always hear that the actual people taking care of your kid in the daycare, in like those formal daycares, right? Not like I run it out of my house type of deal. But in those, they're not making a ton of money. Like a lot of them are making $9 or $10 an hour, So yeah, so you're $300 a week per kid. And yeah, let's say you have 10 kids, you're bringing thousands of dollars a week. I know there's costs again associated with all of this, but like know that just know that don't know that caretakers are fairly paid for the way or the effort of making sure your kid does not shit itself and is safe during the day while you're at work. So, and yeah, even still, even if I was a person that wanted kids, my wife and I have repeatedly talked about how we probably couldn't afford it right now. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have been able to go back to college. So there's a huge, cost associated with that. We wouldn't obviously have a lot of the things we have, which if we were kids people, we might be fine with. But yeah, I mean, it would be hard because this is just daycare we're talking about right now. We're not even considering all the other costs associated with just a child. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? In terms of, healthcare or any of these other things. So yeah, I don't know. That's just what I've seen. I think it's kind of fucked. That's kind of a small chunk of my reasoning for not wanting offspring. Aside from the fact that you just don't need more of me in the fucking world. I think everyone can agree on that. All 30 of you can probably vote yes on not having more Zach.
So I just want to that price point with, it's almost like again, another similar, it's the exact same issue that we see with anything, right? Like, like in a manufacturing industry, we see, where are the billions and billions of dollars that you guys are getting from all this profit that you're making this product, and in this case, the baby would be the product, for lack of a better way to say it.
The
And
product is the care. It's a service.
Well, yeah.
well,
Well,
I
yeah,
meant
it's a
like
service, yes.
just bear with me here. So, and I meant so like you're paying
You're
this
servicing my
service.
product.
Sure. Yes. But so I'm paying this ass ton of money, and then so the person taking care of it doesn't actually see that money. So it's like what incentivizes them to be their best every day. You know what I mean? So to me, you're running, in my opinion, I guess, because I don't have kids and I only know people that do, and they always seem to be okay with daycare, and they're certainly doing it because I don't think they really have another choice. But to me, it's just that you're running a huge risk with having these strangers seemingly watch over your kids, especially the ones that are ran out of their houses, right? And you're paying this ass ton of money, and you're just hoping to God you're not, going to lose the bet where you get a weird person, a serial killer, a pedophile, all these things that could happen. And that's just me. I do catastrophize a lot of things, but I will also say that it's probably been known to happen more times than it should. So I don't know.
So this also begs the question, and this is coming from a fucking ignorant guy who also doesn't have any kids, and I have no idea what the actual, real world
Three of
looks
us
like.
are very qualified to speak on this. I think one of them is the initial takeaway that you should all have.
But so if the employees of these daycare places are getting paid next to minimum wage or whatever, like Eric said, $9-10 an hour, that kind of begs the question, like if they have the experience, like would it be that much harder to start their own daycare? Like what's keeping people from doing that?
I mean, I imagine there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, well, first of all, if you're hosting it out of your house has to be baby proofed. I imagine there's like, licensing and inspections, that they would have to, like, I don't think they just want me running this shit out of my house and they'd be like, well,
Sure.
sir, like a child could fall into your garbage can and why is your bathtub always full? Like, I don't,
Why do you keep your toaster next to it?
yeah. Why is your toaster next to the full bathtub at all times? Like,
And the towels
whatever,
are on
like
the
we
roof.
do. Even the towels are off. Good night. Flip the lights off. Yeah, no, so I imagine there's a lot to do with that. And then like I think too, there's gotta be some extent of just wanting to leave work at work, maybe. And too, like, well, here's the thing, is like, Rick, I know you're a guy that you're more interested in running your own shit. Whereas like I am not interested in running my own business in any sense of the word. Like I have zero entrepreneurial bones in my body. Like I just fucking I don't want to do it. I don't want to deal with all the bullshit, right? Like
Sure.
like just extra bullshit that I don't want. So, and I think there's a lot of people that are like, well, if I can go and do this job that I can do well, and some of them I'm sure do it well and actually care about taking care of kids, and then just turn around and go home, that's the ideal situation, you know. But it's yeah. So I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, I would think in a perfect world that all this money would go towards the caretakers, and the caretakers, I don't know if they have to undergo any sort of licensing or anything like that, to be honest. I didn't check. I should have checked, like, at least for the state of Minnesota, but you know, there should maybe be more stringent requirements for that, you know,
Yeah.
make sure that they really can provide.
You do need
Yeah.
a license according to the Googler.
Yeah, I assumed there was, but I didn't want to assume too hard into saying a wrong thing.
But Zach, I would push back a little bit on what you said because you're not like going to a job where you have to watch kids. You know, these people already are, you know, and it just in my thinking, like there for you, I imagine there's a price that you would say, yes, I'll watch 30 kids all day. I
Oh,
have to imagine it's extremely high, but there is a price, right?
that's a big fuck. I think I would lick your ass for a smaller price than I would watch 30 kids. Like if someone said here for like this X amount of dollars, you can lick Rick's sweaty ass after he's been fucking splitting wood, or you can take care of 30 kids for a week. I would lick your ass. I don't
So
care how
what?
much lower the number is.
So what kind of price we talking?
Well, I'm pretty poor right now. You got like a 20 on you? How about you got a 20 on and you're gonna have to cover my gas for driving out there. I'll leave right now.
All right, well, we'll talk more after the show.
Yeah, well, let's take this off air. I'm interested.
Yeah, that got there pretty quick, as far as ass licking goes. But you know, you know what? I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, and you know, we see this with childcare, right? But we also see this with, you know, adult care as well. Like when adults get to that certain age, like grandparents and things like that, when they have to go to an assisted living, to a nursing home, and things like that. And it's just so astronomically priced, where like it takes a village, or it takes the whole family to almost pay for it, unless you're really well off, or unless the person in question budgeted for it, right? And there's state organizations that help pay for it and things like that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't just a out of pocket situation, but you know, it does make it extremely hard for childcare and then senior care. And at both of those, as we said at the beginning, candle ends of the fucking of life. I put it in there somewhere, but both ends of life, there, you're kind of getting screwed, and you don't have a choice, and so you're kind of being exploited. Because I mean, as a child, you're not being exploited, but as the adult who has the child, you are. And then as the adult who can't really do anything, you are. It is just a kind of a cash grab. And do we see that in other countries? I guess is my question, and why I'm kind of laying it out the way I am. Because you always see, and this might be a movie thing, and it might just be my naivety and ignorance, but you see, like, you know, in Italy, for example, you see like all these older generational people that are still living on their own in their own house by themselves, because people are checking on them, and it's their family, and family values are more so, you know, ingrained in that kind of culture, I guess. And this is just, you know, an example. But do you know what I mean? Or is this more of a capitalistic way of taking care of one another? Just so, okay, I know they're fine. I can just pay a fee to know that they're going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think it's a societal thing. Like it's probably a mostly American thing because if you think about it, there's a lot of Asian households that'll have multiple generations of the family under the same roof, you know. And then you do have like the grandparents helping take care of the kids. And there's other countries or other, I guess, societies or whatever, other cultures, you know, like the you know the village, for lack of a better term, is all involved in taking care of everything, whether it's a kid or an elder person. And I don't know, this is a step off from what we were technically started off here, but like with elder care and stuff, I think in the United States we really just don't give a shit about elderly people. I'm just gonna flatly say that because here's the thing, man, is like, yeah, you stuff them away, or a lot of families stuff grandma and grandpa away in a nursing home. And there's a lot of those are really fucking shitty, and they're just kind of waiting rooms to die, you know. And a lot of them, there are good ones out there that'll provide, you know, rehabilitation and things like that for, people who whatever have like memory issues or who might be losing mobility and things like that. They're very good and they're very expensive. I don't think the money goes to the caretakers there either, which is unfortunate because they're busting their ass. But yeah, I think as far as kids go, like I think it is more a result of being an individualistic society and a society where now we're expected to have dual income households. You can't have mom or dad stay home and watch the kids really as much, like you might have been able to used to 60, 70 years ago at this point. Mom can't just be a homemaker and be on fucking drugs all day and then bake you some sort of fucking like gelatin ham out of some of those. Have you seen some of that shit out of those cookbooks? It's repugnant. Like it's just straight up like gelatin with a fucking ham baked into it, and like mom's at home on fucking opioids just out of her fucking mind because she's a woman and said one thing. So now a man doctor was just like, "You're a lunatic. I'm going to lobotomize you with drugs." So you can't do that
Yeah.
anymore. And here in America, we're so focused on like staying young and vibrant and energetic and exciting that like someone turns 60 or 70 and you're just kind of like, ew, disgusting, and you throw them in a fucking nursing home.
I don't want to
If
look
they're
at
not
you.
able to. Yeah, we just kind of want to pretend that doesn't happen. So yeah, I think it's definitely different in other cultures, and I feel like this is probably a uniquely like developed nation type of problem with anything similar society to us. That'd be my guess. I don't know enough to speak for the planet or anything, but
I think the reason why I asked is because I'm almost the issues that we're talking about, or obviously capitalism and money and things like that, but it's almost like we're creating these own issues ourselves and then complaining about it when we forget why they're here. You know what I mean? That's it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, kind of. Like we're shooting. The call is coming from inside the house, I
yeah,
guess. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So if they want people and that's the thing is like this incoming administration and so many people in the orbit of it are just bitching up and down about people need to reproduce. I mean, like I saw a clip the other day, and by the other day, I think I mean yesterday, of JD Vance talking about how basically like families with kids or people with kids should be awarded more votes in an election than those without kids. Things like that. Or yeah, I mean, he's said the thing about just have grandma and grandpa take care of them. Like what the fuck, without realizing the privilege that you have to have for that sometimes, especially when they want to raise the retirement age. So now fucking Pop and Mima fucking have to work until they're 70 anyway. I
yeah.
mean,
Right.
shit, like I mean, if I had kids right now, like right now, this moment today, and I had them, not my wife, if I pooped out a kid myself personally as a man, like dude, my parents all still work and they would help as much as they could, but it's not I can't just be like, all right, I got stuff to do. Here's the fucking kid, like go play with him or whatever, or her, whatever. They Braun James, whatever, if they're non-binary. Um so yeah, it's just the amount of privilege these people think. And then Elon Musk has also said the same thing, like, people need to have more kids, more kids, more kids. And dude, I don't know, man, like the population of the planet is still growing at a pretty rapid rate. And like there's a lot of people in the United States not taken care of. So I don't understand why we're wanting to have more other than
Right.
the fact that they need them as labor. So
Yeah,
We need more
there's that
cogs,
piddle.
damn it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. Like, why is that even being said? You know what I mean? Like, people are going to have kids whether or not you tell them to, and people aren't going to have kids whether or not you tell them to. You know what I mean? So why is
Yeah.
that? Like, that just seems such like a primitive way of like almost campaigning on it. It just seems odd. I get it. I get it was like such, like it was a hot topic with abortions and things like that, and what we should be doing as an alternative. But it was like Elon Musk, shut the like. What are you doing in this conversation? You know what I mean? Get out of here. You don't go
Knocking up
here.
his secretaries.
Yeah,
Well,
fuck
dude,
that
you're
guy.
like, yeah, like I mean, that's the thing of it is like people are gonna have kids whether you tell them to or not, and just telling them to like they're kind of missing the forest for the trees. Like there's a laundry list of reasons why people are choosing not to have kids, and they are people, or I'm sure there are people who would have been having kids, people that are foregoing it because they're like realizing like, oh, well, I can't properly raise a child in this environment. So, so
Yeah.
they end up just going to a situation where they're like, well, I just don't want to have kids, or they put off having kids for a long time because they're just like, like just I'll wait till I get to a situation where I can handle raise and making a responsible decision. And yeah, then you have a bunch of these idiots just fucking slapping their uglies together and making 9 fucking kids 'cause they can't figure out how a condom works because we don't teach that in schools or anything anymore now. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a sword of two edges, if you will.
Well, and they need to if they spent more time addressing the reasons why people aren't having kids instead of just saying, "Oh, you'll be fine." Just start exactly. Just start shitting. Just start shitting them out, and you'll figure it out. You just might have to eat every other day or whatever the hell. It's like people. Why should that be the other? Like, why is that? Why does that have to be the case?
Yeah, why is that your other choice? Like,
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. And then, and like you said, like you both said, like just learning more about it, just from at an early age, and understanding, the implications with having it, not having it. And then, so it's not such an abrupt decision when that does inevitably, you come at a crossroads when you could be 16, you could be 30, it doesn't matter, just so you're prepared mentally, and you know and you're educated enough to make that decision, and you're not influenced by either religion, by Donald Trump, by Kamala Harris. You can make that decision on your own, really.
Do not
um,
let Elon Musk change your decision to have a child. Do not let that fucking shithead dad using his kid as a meat shield fucking make that decision for you. You should
Right.
all make your own decision on whether you not have kids or you do have kids. That was the worst way grammatically I could have said that, but like you get
well,
it.
speaking of meat shields, what do kids have to look forward to? I mean,
Jesus Christ.
Fucking Tokyo Drift in this one into the fucking
Oh,
parking spot.
no, that was just fucking dark, dude.
well,
We call
sometimes.
that gallows humor.
Holy fuck.
Well, so not only do you have to have this make this decision to have a kid, you have to look around and say, what kind of environment is my kid going to grow up in? Can I afford it? But then that next step is, okay, they're going to get to a certain age where you're going to send them to a school. And if you're not wealthy enough to send them to a private school where they all have the same haircuts and outfits, you're going to send them to a public school like where I was sent to, and you have to practice, school shooter drills, which was normalized and probably shouldn't have been. And you have to, and then just that environment, and then that's the kind of world they have to live in, and then that creates other issues like mental health, anxiety. I mean, you have to live in it, and then God forbid it actually happens, and something, you know what I mean, like they see a friend get hurt, or go through something where maybe they, you know what I mean, like you just are putting them, you're creating a human, and you're putting them in an environment where you're almost putting them in a simulation where it's built to fail around them, and you're going to say, how are they going to react? Let's see how far this can go off the rails and how quick,
So,
especially with porn.
all right. So,
They're putting porn in the schools now, I guess. Looks like I'm
so,
going back to fourth grade.
so, Brittany and I are kind of in this boat right now, especially with Trump being elected. Like, I, I was coming around to the idea of having kids or whatever, but like now that Trump got elected, it's like I don't want to have a kid that I can't have hope for them in the future. What happens? What if they're born? What if the kid we have is a girl and they have less fucking rights than my fucking mom had when she was, like why would I bring another human being into this shitty fucking world that seems to be getting worse all the fucking time? I can't have hope for them. They're going to be less wealthy than I am based on fucking how the trends are going. What is my motivation? It just seems selfish at this point. The only motivation left is I just want one, so I'm going to have one. Fuck it. But you're not considering it's more than this comes back to my being pro-birth instead of pro-life argument. They care about the baby being born, but they don't care about the life that they live. That's also fucking important. Quality of life is important. And it seems so many people, especially these dipshit fucking Elon Musks of the world, think that they're just so disconnected from the average person that they can't even consider that.
It's rough. Well, and the thing too, I mean, like you kind of said, God forbid you have a female child, which God damn it, raising a daughter as a dude's got to be tough already, you know? Like I don't know how I would handle that, honestly. It'd be tough, but I mean, yeah, God forbid you have a child who is gay. God forbid you have a child with any sort of mental health issue or a physical issue, you know, any sort of illness or anything like that. Um, and then there's the problem too of like, you know, things can happen to you or Brittany. So if there's an issue where, you know, one of you gets hurt and can't work, or one of you is in a horrible accident and God forbid is gone now, you know, like
Right.
there's no help for you in those situations, or there's such minimal amounts of help for you in those tough situations. And it's like, and it's just all couched in this idea that everyone's like taking advantage of welfare, you know, that like, you know, Minnesota does right by the kids. Like if you're listening to this podcast, I'm probably preaching to the choir, and I kind of realize that. But also, like here's the thing: is like Tim Walz did great shit for schools. You know, making sure like we're gonna feed all of the kids so you can eat. You know,
Right.
but we're now existing in an era where that was apparently by a lot of people's calculations a very bad idea because well my taxes are paying for it. And here's the thing too, here's the thing too that I think is important. I'm a person, my wife and I have decided to not have children. Like we are done, we're not going to do it, we've made the decision entirely. So nobody's, if you want to email the podcast and say I'll change my mind at some point, I will personally fly to your house and fist fight you at this point. I don't care, like just it's not going to happen, it's not going to fucking happen. Which interestingly enough is usually why I get called selfish. Like, I'm sorry, I want to drive a Dodge Viper someday. I don't want a fucking rat in a diaper like screaming and shitting itself in my house. That's the decision I've made. But I still think, and I am still willing to contribute tax money to feed your bratty little fucking rats at school because I want them to grow up and learn something and like try to make the world a better place when they get it. And I want them to at least have a shot at having a decent fucking life. And again, I'm not having kids. I don't give a shit for your like whatever about having kids. I don't want them. I don't need them, any of that, but I still give a shit about everyone else's kids. You
Right.
know, like it shouldn't be hard to have that type of fucking empathy or sympathy, whichever one. Um, you know, you get it, but it just, I don't know. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that like I'm the selfish one not having kids. And I'm like, but I care more about the kids than you do, you know, than a lot of these conservative people do because they don't want to feed them and they don't want to protect them from gun violence in schools. I mean, it's shocking to me that, you know, like I don't know, Rick, if you would have had any, but like I never had a school shooting drill ever through my entire college or school career. And then, you know, I'm going to college now for anyone who doesn't isn't aware, and I'm talking to some of the students that are of, you know, appropriate college age, you know, in their early 20s, and they have talked about like, yeah, we've been doing school shooter drills like almost the whole time, and it like blew me away and made me incredibly sad that like
Yeah.
they have to sit there and you have to teach like very very young kids, like 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, like listen, if this happens, you know, if someone comes in here with a gun, I need you to sit in the corner and be completely silent, you know, because otherwise if you're not, you could die. You know what I mean? Like, I just I think as much as we possibly can do it, I don't think that kids should be facing their fucking mortality in such stark terms. It's one thing when we do a tornado drill or a fire drill and you go, "Hey, you got to get out, otherwise you're going to get hurt." Like that's kind of one thing. The idea that you're going to go, "Hey, someone could walk in here and intentionally end your life." And unfortunately, this country is just okay with that happening as frequently as it does. Dude, it's gutting. It's fucking gutting. So I can't imagine having a child or considering. If I was considering a child, I'd probably come down on the no side anyway. Again, for all
Right.
of those reasons, it's just it. I don't know, man. It's dark. It's dark fucking times to be a child.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have you know, the extrinsic risks as well. I mean, outside of what you just laid out, but you know, the human aspect of things with you know, again, you're hoping and praying that these individuals that are going to be taking care of your kids when you send them to school are again sane enough or want to be there or giving half a shit or providing the education that you're paying for. um, uh, and then right now, I mean, we have, I mean, we put it on here, I mean, a teacher shortage, right? and how underpaid that career field is. And now they have to worry about the same things that the same kids have to worry about, and they have to almost illustrate it in a way to the kids that it's everything's going to be fine, but they still have to worry about the same real world shit of an active shooter. And it's scary. They're the protector of the kids within that classroom, and they're not paid enough to do that. And you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
it puts them in
absolutely.
a very precarious position. Let's just say that for the easiest way to frame it.
Well,
It's
and
yeah,
I would
like
also
if you're gonna do that, like I mean, just super quickly, like if you're gonna make them protect kids against gun violence, and if you want to arm them, like so many people have argued, then you got to pay them way fucking more to be a fucking bullet shield for kids. That's all I'm
right.
saying.
Why is there such a discrepancy? Because they're essentially like babysitters that have more responsibility than a babysitter. Like you're not just keeping the kid alive and feeding it and fucking making sure it's clean and breathing at the end of the day. No, you got to teach them stuff. They have to pass certain tests. Like the kid has to perform, and these teachers get paid so much less than these daycare places get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to watch 30 kids. Daycare places don't have the same head count. They're not allowed to. What the fuck?
Right. Well, then they're potentially being asked to wield a gun or be able to
Right. Yeah.
barricade a door from a shooter. You know, I just think on like as far as that goes, I truly don't think, or I think we've at least hit a point now where we don't value education in this country like just as a core tenet of America anymore. I mean, because like again, we're letting kids get shot up in schools. We're not paying teachers for shit. Teachers are I mean, parents are shitty to teachers. I have teachers in my family. One of which, like my brother-in-law, he's not a teacher. He got out because it fucking sucked. He got out, um, and went to college with me actually, and he's got a job doing that. Like my sister wants to teach at like a college level, so that's what she's trying to figure out how to do because dealing with the kids and stuff at that level. I mean, yeah, a college professor doesn't make shit for money either, but at least you're not trying to like be a be a fucking bullet sponge for 30 kids in a classroom. And
Yeah.
my stepmom too, she was a teacher for a long, long time, and she started getting out because I mean, she started seeing legitimately, she would get screamed at by parents. She was making not a ton of money despite being, there's a scale for teachers, right? Depending on your education and your experience. So I remember when she finished her master's degree, so she was at the top of that scale. She had nowhere to go. Like she could not be paid more based on where the like collective bargaining was at and any of that type of stuff without moving to a different job that was not strictly teaching. And yeah, I mean, eventually she got out anyway, though, because I mean, these kids are fighting in the hallways and they're being bastards, and you can't, like, you legitimately cannot touch the kids in any way to break up a fight or anything. So teachers are getting fired for breaking up fights in the hallway. Yeah, it's just really rotten for teachers, and I just don't think there's any respect for them, especially now. Like, people are yelling at teachers for fucking grooming our kids and like all this horrific shit that is not happening,
Yeah.
so there's just a basic lack of respect for the people that are educating the future of this fucking country. So,
Yeah. And we
yeah,
have, I
it makes
mean,
me mad, and I don't have kids. It makes me fucking mad.
I have a quick theory just based on what you just said is with the I saw a while, maybe this was when I was even a kid, or with the MCAs and all that bullshit that we had to take, but America was not number one in education ever when I was whatever. It was always China. And so do you think we've gotten to a point where we've just been sliding down the rankings, and now we're at a point where we're going to Americanize it and be like, well, guess what? It never really mattered. Education is bullshit. We're going to pull funding for the Department of Education, and we're going to focus on militarization because that's all that matters in the world.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think I don't think that's totally off base. I think that's a reasonable tinfoil hat to wear. You know what I mean? Like, because, well, I mean, fuck, here's the thing: where you're getting rid of the Department of Education because everyone's grooming our kids, and like standardized testing sucks. But having some sort of public school system and a Department of Education to oversee the fact that hopefully these kids are at least learning some shit that they should learn, because we've been behind as in America in like in math and science scores since I can remember
Yeah.
as a kid, for forever. So it's like we've never been the most intellectual. And now, I mean, God damn it. I mean, look, it's like I think 50% of this country or more only reads at like a sixth grade level. And of those people, like fully it's like a fourth of them are functionally illiterate, which means
Yeah.
like you can't go out into the world and read basic shit and understand it, right? So, I mean, think about that. Like most of the people that are going to the polls or going to vote or are reading your campaign material or are watching your commercials and shit or are just reading all the shit on Facebook, right? Are reading at a sixth grade level. Think of who you were in sixth fucking grade. How are you, like 11, 12, some shit like that? Uh,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
like sixth
Yep.
grade.
Yep.
So you are that old, that level of reading, which I mean, I've always been kind of a fucking nerd. So like I read, I think at in sixth grade, I was reading at like a high school senior level already. That's like my one claim to being smart that I can ever make is I could read good. Uh, but yeah, I mean, and look at it, and honestly, like you can find it. I can't remember the website, but there is a website that tracks literacy in America, and like look at some of the rankings and look at some of the statistics from down south, like in the Bible Belt, like they're 10 steps away from just like reverting. Yeah, literacy,
See?
right? From reverting back to just like banging rocks together and grunting. Like I don't, you
Yeah.
know. So it's
No.
we just don't give a shit anymore in this country, apparently. Or maybe we never did. Maybe we needed more like cannon fodder.
Yeah.
So I have quoted a quote from Carl Sagan um, multiple times. For sure, every time Trump got elected. Uh, and
So if you had a nickel for every time, you'd have two nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's
well,
weird that it happened twice.
and several times during his presidency too, where I posted online or whatever. But it's I don't know. I'm not going to try and read the whole thing because I suck at
Don't say it.
reciting the shit. But it, basically, just look up "I have a foreboding" quote by
Ah,
Carl
yes.
Sagan,
It's a
and
big longer quote, right?
yes, and it is so fucking accurate even today. Like he said this in the '80s, or I think.
Can you give us a synopsis for the folks that aren't going to look it up like me?
Uh, you
Thanks for
should
being
really look
honest.
at like read it, Eric.
Rick,
You'll be
Rick,
like, holy
you
shit!
can't do that on a podcast. So you can't be like, do this, and then you know what I mean.
All right,
It's
edit
it's
this out.
I will.
bad
I will.
verbal content.
Okay, basically, he's commenting on the dumbing down of America,
Okay.
and instead of figuring out what's true, you would rather go along with what feels good, and yeah, it's just basically you rely more on superstition than you do on like being able to think critically and the scientific and all that shit. So that yeah.
Sure. That makes. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. Exactly where we're at right now. I mean, we just joked about it on the last podcast. At least I thought I did. But the smart dust bullshit that people thought 2 weeks ago. I mean, we have grown 50 to 60-year-old
Mm,
people that have seen fog before think that it's a conspiracy because it heated up in January.
Yeah.
yeah. It was
Come on.
foggy in more than one place at the same time, Eric.
Yeah,
But
it's a
so
I
conspiracy.
mean,
they believe that the government is spiking the weather or whatever the fuck it, however they're manipulating the fog with smart dust or
making
whatever the fuck it is.
hurricanes.
Yeah. But they adamantly deny climate change. That's insane.
Yeah, which one of those sounds more reasonable? The climate is
Right.
changing, or we can make hurricanes. But here's
Joe
the thing,
Biden's coming after
like,
me with a fucking hurricane gun.
dude, here's the thing. Why would you vote for the party that can't make hurricanes then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
if
voting for the
Democrats can
hurricane
make,
gun party.
dude, yeah, if Democrats can make hurricanes and Republicans can't, I know where my vote's fucking going based purely on that. Because, like, I want a hurricane
Right?
But
Sounds
we're
badass.
gun. Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Not even
No,
pro gun. Pro hurricane, though.
I commented on some of these videos and I said that is concerning dot 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 the regression of intelligence in America. Like this is ridiculous. And I don't know if it's regression. I think these people now have a voice because of where we're at. And I think they're the majority of at least to what I see, and you guys probably see something differently because of how algorithms work nowadays now. But
Mine's
I also
cooked.
should
I've explained before how mine's cooked, so I'm not seeing the same thing. Someone threatened Elon Musk, and I think she had like half an eye. I don't know. It was super scary. She was like 95 years old, screaming at Elon Musk.
well, but I also like I should have been more aware or at least looked around a little bit more. I just thought it was like a hometown thing where people would use seen the wrong way. I seen that,
Oh
and
yeah.
but it's we're dumb. It's just dumb people, and now they're louder.
Yeah,
So
well,
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is like they're used to hearing how America's number one and great. Like we went to the fucking moon, we're kicking names and taking ass. Like it's
those
just
same,
not that way anymore.
those same people are denying that though. So it's like, so you're saying we
Right.
suck everywhere?
But hey, so they're used to that, and so we're quite literally resting on our laurels. We're as a country, we're sort of resting on our previous successes, our previous victories, and nobody's willing to do that now, type of thing.
We're
They don't
Yeah. I
understand what
mean,
kind of work that took.
no, I
yeah.
think that's a good point. Like, people just grow up with this idea of American exceptionalism without realizing that, like, to continue that, you need to continue the work that got to that American exceptionalism, which, like, we didn't, like, there was a small period where we were the biggest dick country in the fucking world. And I don't think we have the biggest dick anymore. Like,
No,
well and true, because we're getting fucking stupid. Like,
all
and
the other
military
ones,
power only gets you so far.
all the other ones finally got their mail order dick pills. So
Yep.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
shaved.
watch out.
America made gas station boner pills, and now everyone else has got a hold of some of them. So now it's really on.
Yeah, no, it's frightening to say the least. It's frightening. It's like you guys said, these people can vote, and it's not even just like, I mean, it's a large majority of one side, but let's be honest here, it's everywhere. You see it everywhere. You see it on the extreme sides. They're the loudest. That's what gets the attention. That's what the right goes after in their rants when it's like, oh, you blew, you know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing though? Like, will we ever get to a point where common sense and reasoning and understanding and maybe sitting down, touching the grass and reading a book, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, don't just think that I'm sitting here on my perfect cloud of judgment, tossing down nuggets of wisdom to everybody. Like I just told Rick I had a transcendent experience, and I'm pretty sure I was just too high. So,
I mean, I
so
got I got like 4 hours of screen time on my cell phone, so yeah, I'm not perfect either, but I've also read a book recently, and I'm also like studying for an engineering degree, so I'm trying. I'm fucking
yeah,
trying, guys.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's scary. It is just scary. But yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it is.
so these people are voting. These people are voting on big issues. When it comes to like funding and things like that, and we have you know
Eliminating departments.
let's just go back to kids because I felt like I no, I do want to bring
Well,
up something
Eric
else.
wants to talk about the kids again.
Yeah, well, just one more maybe hot item, and maybe like another worrisome thing that I have, and it'll tie into another thing here real quick. But you know, another big thing, and I think Rick mentioned it. You guys both mentioned it, I think. But when people have kids, they're worried about them having medical issues, and it's not just this for the sake of, oh no, now I got to deal with it, right? It's no, it's the financial implications attached to said medical issue, and also the quality of life, and then you also have the, what is that individual now going to have to experience for the rest of their life? What are they going to have to pay for? What are they, blah blah blah. So I think the outrageousness that is, prices that of healthcare in general, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum. We don't have to keep digging that up, but just maybe Zach too, if you want to speak to this because you are somebody who is affected by it, right? And you can maybe speak more toward to it. But I just want to say that it's a big issue, and it's kind of a slap in the face when you see maybe people talk about it like it's a, well, maybe we'll take it away, maybe we won't, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that, and it's almost like they're dangling a Twinkie in front of you, and you're, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's to me, it's too loosely talked about to be taken seriously. It should be a serious topic all the time.
Yeah, you should have more than concepts of a plan for the healthcare of your country.
Yeah,
It is a fucked up thing. Yeah, I mean, as I guess as the resident chronically ill guy, and the thing is, like, I didn't get sick as a kid. I
Yeah.
didn't get sick as a kid, so like my parents didn't have to deal with that, which is fortunate because I don't know that they would have really had a great time with it. Because like I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money. My parents were really young, had me as an oopsie. They just wanted to get jiggy with it at some point, and like, whoop, they decided to keep cum as a pet, and that was me. Um, so, so yeah, so I wasn't sick until I was 27 years old, which is a fucked up time to get sick because I had just gotten kicked off my parents' insurance the year earlier, of course, because of the ACA, you can stay until you're 26. Um, so I only know kind of the financial implications from that point on. And the thing is, like, so it is very expensive, and in this, I mean, it is going to depend on what your child is ill with, of course, which I mean, there's a ton of things. They could be wheelchair bound, or they could need, a bunch of drugs. They could need a bunch of different testing for things. They could need, dialysis and transplants and all this stuff. I had a buddy who, he passed away in 2012. He popped out and immediately needed a heart transplant, I think, was what it was. I mean, he was
Well,
supposed to make it to maybe 10. He made it to 23 and had a heart attack. Um,
Jeez.
so it's just, and with that, I mean, uh, Jesus Christ, he like wasn't able to play sports and shit like that. He loved sports, loved football. Was never able to play because it was too much stress on his heart. He couldn't really do a lot, I mean, so he was funny as hell. He was a good dude to be around and whatever, and he made the best of it. But the dude got to meet Michael Jordan,
no.
which was cool as fuck. I saw like a whole video of it, and he just like casually mentioned it to me one day, like when we were hanging out at school, and like here I am, like I'm like fucking 10 years old or some shit. Michael Jordan's just he's always been like my guy, and he's just like, yeah, we had dinner and shit, whatever, and I'm just like, are you fucking with me? Like this is incredible. Like you're just so casual about this shit. I would die. If Michael Jordan came up to me and shook my hand and autographed my shit, I would just die right there on the floor. But yeah, I mean, so I've seen it happen that way too. I'm sure that was not a cheap thing to deal with, but like so for example, I was thinking about this the other day. For me personally, I probably spend in the ballpark of $7,000 or more out of pocket for my stuff, for being diabetic, right? So that's insulin, that's sensors, that's everything that's involved with being diabetic, which I mean, for some people, you don't realize the cost of it. So I use insulin pens. So you need needles for those pens. They're kind of expensive. You need to carry different kind of emergency parachutes for yourself. Um, so I have to carry glucagon, or I have to keep track of that, which is it's not super expensive. But it's a safety valve for very low blood sugars. It's what they'd give you if you were having an extreme low and you were pass out and the EMTs show up. They're just going to bang you with some glucagon. It's a hormone that forces your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream. Um,
Hmm.
you just take it exogenously. My body doesn't trigger it anymore because of the way those cells work. So I don't naturally make enough of that to do stuff in emergency situations. So I was thinking about this. So let's say for easy round numbers that I spend $10,000 a year on this stuff. And let's say I want the quality of life of someone that makes $100,000 a year, which I know doesn't buy a lot anymore, but I just want easy numbers. So the thing is now, for me as a chronically ill person, I have to make an extra $10,000 on top of what anyone else would want to have an equivalent quality of life, in terms of like financial standing to buy, the same type of house, afford the same types of cars, go on a vacation every year. I have to make that extra money. But that's also does not include the cost of things like my time, right? So I have to go to the doctor more frequently, blood tests more frequently. That can get expensive. There's a higher risk of going to the hospital, which is obscenely expensive. If I fuck something up. Um, so there's all of these things where you're spending a bunch of extra time and money that you wouldn't have over a normal healthy person that I think a lot of healthy people don't really realize. So when they run around saying it kind of falls into that bucket to me of like everyone has the same opportunity here. Everyone has the same opportunity in America. It's like, not really.
Yeah.
Because I'm spending all this extra time. So instead of maybe building a business or doing something to improve my career, I got to go to the doctor's office. I got to spend all this time and money to go to a fucking doctor's office. And we know that experience can be really painful. I'm fortunate to have good clinics down here, but um, that can be a pain in the ass. I've heard of people having to drive. I grew up in Sartell, so I've heard of people driving down to the cities to go to their endocrinologist appointments. I had a diabetic friend growing up, so, they would have to drive to the cities all the time to see a doctor. So now that's, an hour one way, an hour the other way or more. You're basically spending your whole fucking afternoon doing that stuff. You're pulled out of school. If you're young, you're pulled out of school. So now you're missing lectures, you're missing out on homework, you're missing out on information you might need to do the homework or to learn properly. Um, yeah, it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. And I think that's really important too. I mean, it does go tie into the kids thing, but it also ties very much into the healthcare thing, where it's like this is the cost, like this is the actual cost of being sick that I think people don't see. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it runs pretty deep, but that's kind of I think the biggest bullet point, like the most in your face bullet point, is like the actual numbers of like I need to make X amount more to have the same life, which means I have to work X amount harder uh, just to have the same life as a healthy person.
Right. Well, and I would also probably add to that, just imagining that, having to keep your sort of your numbers on the back of your mind constantly, all the time. Like, how am I feeling? Is my sugar getting too low or too high? Is my insulin where it needs to be? Just constantly there. Like that takes up some of your bandwidth to even think about other things.
Yeah,
I
so it's
imagine.
actually yeah, no, that's 100% right. So there's actually I wish I could remember what it's called, but there is a thing in your brain um where decisions kind of take up like you kind of in a not in an absolute sense, but you kind of in a sense have like a bucket that's full at the beginning of the day, and this is kind of the number of decisions you can make or the amount of energy that you can expend on these decisions. And I think if people were to look, I think it's called like spoon theory or something. Like you have a certain amount of big spoons or little spoons. Um, or for the big nerds out there, I've heard it described as like spell slots in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where you have certain big spells you can use only maybe a couple times a day, and then you have a bunch of little spells that you can use as many times as you want.
Right.
So diabetes can suck up some of those big spells, some of the big spoons, and then you got to take a long rest to figure it out, right? And you're absolutely right. There's the decisions of um, what are my numbers at now? Do I trust the machinery that I'm using is always a consideration, right? Does that number feel accurate based on how I'm feeling? And then there's always the decision of, okay, blood sugar's low. Should I eat? How much should I eat? How much do I think I need to do? Um, Blood sugar's high. Am I about to eat? Am I about to go for a walk? Am I about to go train? That can all play into it. I'm about to sit in a car. What am I eating? That can change things. The loss of sleep can be immense at times. I think the average diabetic person, like they lose tons and tons of sleep every year. I forget. There's a lot of numbers that float around that I've seen before that I forget, but from experience personally, there's some nights I'll sleep through the night. It's all good, doesn't matter. I mean, shit, for example, the last week or so, I've had to get up at least once to chug a bottle of Gatorade, which is very unpleasant. Because you wake up and it's like you never brush your teeth and it tastes gross.
Yeah.
Your teeth get all fuzzy.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, that happens and you lose sleep. And I mean, I've had nights where I probably slept for 3 or 4 hours and I spent the rest of it fighting blood sugar. Um, Yeah, so there's a lot of those things, and of course, then you're not as awake the next day. The number of big decisions you can make goes down because you didn't rest enough, and you just get fatigued faster, like mentally fatigued. So yeah, I mean, there is an absolutely like kind of a mental cost, which certainly has affected my ability to study, my ability to learn, my ability to do good work when I am working, um, performance in the gym, like because that stress can do that type of thing to you. So.
Right.
Yeah, and again, this is just a me and diabetes thing that isn't even speaking necessarily to people with other medical issues that I might know nothing about. But I know some people just are crippled some days. Like some days they might be pretty okay, and some days they're just completely bedridden. So, um, yeah. So yeah, that's the fun mental emotional cost of it. like, and I think emotionally too. God, I'm talking a whole fucking shitload, so I'll let you guys talk after this. But I
No.
just have too much to say. But I just want to say too, like, I mean, there's the emotional part of it too, where like from the moment I kind of got my arms around this whole thing after, being sick for a little while and I kind of felt finally in control of it. I mean, here's the thing. So I'm 27, I'm in great shape, trying to do this whole powerlifting bullshit, and I get sick. I lose 40 pounds. I have to gain all that back. So I had to fight for all of that muscle back and all of that strength back while figuring out how to be healthy with doctors that weren't very helpful. So I didn't get very big or very strong for a few years. Um, I got a good doctor. I figured all this shit out. I've now gotten, bigger, faster, stronger, and I'm doing great that way. But the thing is, I mean, I've lost all that time and all that effort, went away essentially was for naught. And there's this constant thing kind of floating around that at least floats in the back of my mind that because of this, I can't totally be the person that I want to be. Um, it's just cut off, right? I can't be, um, I can't necessarily be the athlete I want to be. I can't necessarily be the friend that I want to be or anything because I have to be self-centered to a certain degree to make sure I'm still healthy. You can't really be spontaneous as much. I mean, you can, but I mean, the risk to reward isn't there for me. Personally, I know some people that probably disagree with me on that, but I always have to think, do I have insulin on me? Do I have food on me? Do I have all my thing is always to carry a safety valve for any situation. Um, so do I have all that? I can't just be the guy that just stands up and bolts out the door anymore. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's that. There's that whole thing. It's a whole loss of identity. There's kind of a before sick Zach and an after sick Zach. Um, I don't know that either one is better or worse. They're just different. But this one is not as fun to exist in, I guess, which is a thing that I think about a lot. And that's the only time being sick actually pisses me off is when I start to think about it that way. That's when I get really, really fucking upset about it. Um, yeah. Why don't you guys talk?
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you sharing all that. I mean, I know that's extremely personal, and it definitely does shine a light into as much as we can see as far as the what we're aware of and what we can be aware of from your point of view and things like that. So again, thank you. Um, but knowing you and you certainly don't let it on that you're any different from when before the diagnosis and after. So if that's
Okay.
any consolation at all. So
It's a little bit. It's a little bit. My whole goal is always to not let any of my bullshit rub off on anyone, right? Because it's my burden to carry. Um, so yeah, no, I prefer it that way. If no one ever was the wiser, that's that's perfect.
And I was just going to say too, I mean, and you're, from my point of view, at least, seeing you, being a diabetic, and knowing how healthy you are and being a power lifter and all that, it's kind of like what happens when you're not that, and how much extra harder is it when you're diagnosed, in your exact situation, but maybe you weren't extremely healthy. Maybe you weren't on your way to become this, specimen, for lack of a better way to say it. But and you just kind of think it's just that much harder, so you can't prepare for it. And in a way, you were in the best, I guess, optimal to get the bad news because you were healthier, right? So
Yeah.
not saying that good deal, right? It's not good, but it's
Well,
just
no,
like,
it is. It's the best it could be. I think you're right. I mean, I was always a healthy person. I was a person who had good exercise habits, good diet habits to begin with. And I think also like my mild obsession with just the human body in general. I'm always just fascinated in how all this shit works. So, I mean, yeah, I was learning how to be diabetic, but I was also learning, okay, like at a cellular level, like what the fuck is going on,
yeah.
whatever. And whether it helps me or not, I don't know. Um, but I think it has helped help me navigate it for sure, especially early on. The ability to kind of feel out like, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Which came from training in the gym, being like, oh, do I feel good? Should I fucking horse cock this goddamn weight up, or should I just maybe call it a day and we go home because I feel icky? Yeah, no, it was the best situation I could have possibly been in for sure. And it does, yeah. I mean, there's people that don't, I talk to people all the time. So I'm in a couple of diabetes groups. I'm an admin of one group that's for athletes. And man, there's some people that just don't get it and they can't figure it out and they have a hell of a time. And I feel so bad. I mean, I've talked to tons of people, straight up to like talk people off cliffs in that group, that just get so fucking sick of it and they so fed up. I mean, whatever. I mean, I remember there was times like we had one person like trying to call this lady. She just fucking had it. She was like, "I'm done. I'm just gonna bang like 100 units of insulin and go to sleep." And everyone's like, "Oh," I mean, we had like 5 people trying to call the cops, like local PD and things.
Mm.
So I mean, it's some serious shit just because you run out of spell slots and you get so
Right.
fucking sick and tired of running out of them. So yeah, yeah. No, I was in the best situation I could be in. I do all right, but it does make me feel also like for those of us that can't quite figure it out or have different illnesses where there's nothing to figure out, you're just fucked. you know,
Yeah.
because there is
Yeah.
those.
Do you look at type twoers differently? Kind of like an
Um,
earned, not given situation?
I think initially I did. And I think most people do, and I don't think that that's the right way to look at it. Um,
Sure.
as I sit now. Because yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lifestyle component to type 2 in a lot of ways, but there's still a genetic component. I've talked to people who are avid runners who develop type 2. Insulin resistance is just a thing that can happen to some people. Again, yeah, lifestyle plays a huge role. If you're sedentary, if you're overweight, all these different things puts your body under a ton of stress, and you can earn it, right? And I think there's kind of a few issues with people seeing it that way. One of them is the fact that they look at type 2 and just go like, "Oh fuck, like you don't you earned this, you figured out, like fuck you, we're not going to help you, right? You asked for this."
Sure.
When most of them didn't. Um, most of them still didn't ask. Nobody wants to be sick. Jesus Christ. And it doesn't make them, even if they did walk into it head first, it doesn't mean that they don't deserve some care. And I also think it sucks that, that people kind of see it as earned because when we talk about diabetes, I always specify type 1 because if I just say I'm diabetic and someone doesn't physically see me, they're going to assume type 2. That's the one we always assume. And then the next thing is always, or frequently, what I've gotten is, well, did you eat a lot of candy when you were a kid? Right. Or some version of that question. And well, the answer is no, but also that doesn't matter. Right. And especially, with differentiating type 1 and type 2, it can be important because type 2s can be treated with insulin. We're finding that putting them on insulin is actually giving very, very good outcomes. It used to be the standard of care was not that. The standard of care was drugs to, decrease, your liver producing glycogen in the bloodstream and things to increase insulin sensitivity. But now they're giving them insulin. They're giving them a lot of the same care type 1s get, and it's been very helpful, is my understanding.
Hmm.
So while I am a little more brittle in that sense that, insulin is a delicate balance, it doesn't mean that I earned this. It also doesn't mean that I'm any better or worse off, I think, than a type 2. Because it still sucks. I mean, having high blood sugar feels like shit and it damages your body, sometimes permanently. We're at risk for all the same stuff for organ damage and bad eyesight and all the everyone's got the story. Oh, my grandma got her toes cut off or whatever the fuck. I've heard tons of that.
Yeah.
And that happens to type 1s as well. Amputations and all that. If your stuff isn't under control. So yeah, I think I did at first look at it differently, but I've come to realize, like, dude, they both fucking suck. They kind of suck for different reasons. But you take care of them largely the same way. And the difference is type 2 can go into remission. Not always, but sometimes it can go into remission. And type 1 is just, at least for now, it's just here. And you're just stuck with it till you die. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So I don't know. I would encourage anyone who listens to kind of try to reframe that conversation around diabetes. Um, yeah, because it's not generally earned. None of us want it. None of us ate too much candy as a kid. Whatever. And for the record, I still can eat candy for fuck's sake. So if you see me eating a goddamn donut, just mind your fucking business. All right, like your boy likes a Bavarian cream. Like, just get off my shit.
Amen.
I like ice
Amen.
cream. All right, fuck off. Slam a
And
pint of fucking
freezies.
Oh, fucking freezies. Yeah, I like those too. I like fucking draining them, throwing the wrapper in the yard, and stomping off to piss in the street. The before Zach.
Uh,
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah. No, chronic illness is cool. I think honestly that's one though. I mean if anyone had a story, like I think those stories are important to tell. So if anyone does listen and has a story, like find a way to tell your fucking story because it does matter. I think it matters because I've talked to a ton of people about my issues, and I do think it's kind of reframed their mindset on different things or their understanding on it. And I think it's important. Like regardless of what chronic issue you have, like get fucking loud about it and advocate for yourself for whatever it is. I think that's huge.
Well, I'll even say this, Zach. Like I don't, at least not that I'm aware of, I don't have a chronic illness or anything. And your story has kind of kicked my ass to get back in the gym because it's like if he can deal with all this shit and he's still out there fucking, getting bigger and stronger, what the fuck is my excuse? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with that, and I should be out there too. So it's been inspiring.
That is
Yeah,
that is cool.
I
It's a
think
huge
Zach, I
action.
think you inspire a lot of people that you probably aren't aware of, but it's certainly talked about behind the scenes. So just so you're aware.
I I truly hope so, not in a selfish way. Um, but it is a thing where I hope too that I mean that sick people or health I don't care, but I just want people to understand that like yeah, like again, yeah, if I can do it, you can do it, man. I'm not special. I'm just a fucking guy. Um, so yeah, yeah, it's cool to hear though. I hope that that's true. I hope it's true.
It is. Alrighty. Any final thoughts from you guys? Otherwise, we'll wrap this pig up.
You know what? We got how many days? We got 5 days till Donald Trump. Yeah, dude, I think we should all lose our fucking minds for the next 5 days and have fun like it's the end times, boys and girls. Uh,
Yes.
that's all I got for now. That's where my brain is at.
Yep. Live it up. Enjoy having a sane president for the next 5 days, and then I guess we'll see what the hell happens. Depending on when this comes out and everyone hears it.
Yeah, exactly. It's 5 days from when we're recording it, so you probably won't hear it until shit. It might be the beginning of the end by then.
I'll tell you what. At least we'll see you guys on the other side next time we record. So that'll be for sure.
Hell yeah.
But
Like, rate,
All right.
subscribe. Fuck you all, and I love you.